There's no business like show business. That's why everybody here tonight, because we all love movies.
The glitz and glamour of show business. And in Hong Kong, show business is big business.
Thank you very much. Congratulations.
Movies have been made here for 100 years. And during the golden age of Hong Kong cinema, in the 70s and 80s, the output of its studios rivaled Hollywood. Now, however, it's an industry in transition. The number of local productions is dropping, but with the return of Hong Kong to China, the talents and expertise of Hong Kong filmmakers are now helping fuel the renaissance of Chinese motion pictures. So far, the results have been impressive. Hong Kong and Chinese cinema have been a big hit with Canadian audiences. In fact, with audiences worldwide, with iconic stars such as Bruce Lee and Jackie Chan, and newer stars such as Zhang Ziyi. Movies such as Farewell My Concubine and Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, okay, there was a Kung Fu Hustler 2 along the way, have by and large received critical acclaim. And you'd be surprised at the Canadian connections. Hong Kong's rich cinema heritage has made it a world-class and world-famous hotbed of creativity. And some of the biggest fans of its movies are Canadian.
The interesting thing about Hong Kong cinema is that most people only in the West have a small sampling of the action films, the Jackie Chan films, the John Woo films. But that's just tip of the iceberg. If you go below that, you've got incredible dramas, comedies, melodramas, really rich films. And there are a lot of directors who are very good at doing human dramas. Okay, films maybe for more grown-ups. I mean, the biggest name in that circuit internationally, obviously, is Wong Kar-wai, who did Days of Being Wild, Chungking Express, In the Mood for Love. But then you have other talented directors like Fruit Chan, Mabel Chung, Lawrence Amon, who can do strong, heartfelt human dramas, which is something that Hong Kong isn't really known for, but they can pull off really well.
希望以后我们现在举办的每年就变成是整个全世界的一个盛会，在香港举办。我觉得这个是对我们香港，不管是电影业、旅游业，都是好的。
This is Film Art, Hong Kong's annual trade show for the movie industry. This is where a lot of the deals are done, and sprinkled throughout the exhibition hall, there is a significant Canadian presence. Here, they're working the crowds, drumming up business to show what Canada has to offer.
Canadians have a very good expertise in a lot of areas, including particularly animation and post-production. So if Canadian companies can get involved in Chinese productions or Hong Kong productions and use that expertise, I think there's a really big growth opportunity for Canadian companies in that area.
So, what does Canada have to offer? Well, you've probably already seen part of the answer.
Yeah. Actually, Shrek has some Canadian blood in him. Yeah, definitely.
The Hong Kong Connection. Canada and the New China is supported by the Hong Kong Economic and Trade Office and the Hong Kong Tourism Board.
Hi, I'm Pei Chen, and this is one of the best ways to see Hong Kong on a tram ride. It's cheap, it's convenient, and it's a fabulous way to really see the city. In fact, these old trams are the only double-decker wood-sided tram fleet in the world. Here on the north side of Hong Kong Island is Central. It's a great place to start a tram ride since many of the things that happen in Hong Kong will take place in Central. Whether you're here for business, to do some sightseeing, or looking for entertainment and an exciting nightlife, Central offers you all of these options. Nearby is Shun Wan, which is a more traditional-looking area and still maintains the feeling of pre-war Hong Kong. Further along is Causeway Bay, one of the most popular shopping areas on the island. Just south of Causeway Bay is Happy Valley, most famous for its race course. Happy Valley is Po Ma De in Cantonese, meaning horse running place. No matter where you go in Hong Kong, be sure to sample regional Chinese delicacies and cuisines from around the world. For a true Hong Kong experience, be sure to try dim sum. With an incredible variety of dumplings, buns, pastries, and other tasty treats, dim sum can be a different experience each time.
Actually, the first time when I met Steven Spielberg, I ran away because I was scared. He was like, oh my God, this big guy, big name, was actually just about 10 feet away from me. So I ran the opposite direction. And then the producer, Sandy was right next to Stephen, and then she called out, "Hey, Ramen, why don't you come say hi to Stephen?" So really, I could say hi to Stephen, and then I shook his hand, and it was great.
Ramen Hui is one of the world's great animation artists, and his story is a reminder of the strong connections between the Hong Kong and Canadian film industries. Ramen began his training in Hong Kong, but it was here at Canada's Sheridan College in Oakville, Ontario, that he mastered his craft. His most famous creation is an odd-looking fellow named Shrek.
Can I stay with you? What? Can I stay with you, please? Of course. Really? No. Please, I don't want to go
There's a big connection between Shrek and Canada because Mike Myers, obviously he's the voice of Shrek, and he's from Canada. He's a big name here. And also a lot of the animators who worked on Shrek got their animation training from Canada too, like myself.
Ramen mastered computer technology at Sheridan, but he also learned the art of how to use it to create endearing characters.
The part that I was mostly proud of looking back at Shrek 1 and Shrek 2 was some of the emotions we could bring out from those characters, because they are not real characters. They are all 0 and 1 in the computer. They are just someone that we imagined could happen.
Together. You gotta let me stay, please, please. Okay, but one night only.
Even when I watch it on the big screen with real audience, it's magical. It just feel like they are someone that we knew, we brought them to the screen, but they are on their own now. They became real characters.
I like my privacy.
Growing up in Hong Kong, most people I saw are all Chinese. We're all Chinese, and most of the time I just spoke Chinese. And being in Canada, then that's the first time I really had a cultural shock of seeing so many different people in the class. I mean, in a way, it's kind of like a little bit of a Shrek story that I'm coming into this world that I feel like I'm an outsider and how to fit in. And it's something that actually everyone has to go through at a certain time.
Ramen Hui is one of the stars of Canadian-trained animators, but there are many more. Some of them learned their craft here at Seneca College in Toronto, and they too have much to be proud of.
Well, certainly our greatest accomplishment to date has been the film Ryan.
I live in Toronto, a city in Canada where I see way too many shades of gray for my own good health.
And so it was 98% animated by Seneca College graduates. And then, as you know, it went on to win the Oscar for the Best Animated Short.
Seneca has partnered with 2 Chinese universities. Their students are now getting Seneca's television and digital arts training programs on both sides of the Pacific.
We have an exchange program with Nanjing University in China and also the University of Shanghai. The students start the first year at either of those universities, and then they come over here and do their second year here, and would graduate with a Seneca diploma. So it's a great partnership where they can start in China and finish in Canada.
For Canadian companies that produce animated television programs, China is one of their most promising markets, and for Nelvana, it's a relationship that goes back a long way.
We first worked in China as early as 1975, actually on the first Care Bears movie. And that was an exciting time because not many people had been working in China. And we've had good relationships with the studios over the years and with the broadcasters, and that continues to grow, and we're meeting more and more companies and emerging broadcasters who are looking for content, and we're excited about the future of that. We've been distributing our shows in Hong Kong and in China and most of Asia for the past 20 years. Because most of our library, but 30 to 40% of Nelvana's library is preschool, it's very soft and safe programming for children, and we've been successful in selling into those markets.
Canadian animated shows have proven to be popular with Chinese audiences. But Canadians may be surprised to learn that Canada has also produced one real flesh and blood television star in China. In fact, he may well be the biggest star in the country.
Well, my story is a rather strange one.
Think of a city that is progressive, free, stable, where opportunity abounds, and quality is premium. A community that is innovative, cosmopolitan, enterprising, and well-connected. This is Hong Kong, Asia's World City.
His name is Mark Rosewell, but to a billion Chinese, he is known as Dashan, and he is one of China's biggest stars. The road that brought him from Ottawa to Beijing began when he was a university student back in the 1980s.
And I remember at the time thinking, you know, everyone's talking about China's booming, China's opening, and the next century belongs to China. And that was very much a very strong message in the Canadian media in the mid-1980s. And so I sort of had it in the back of my mind that maybe learning Chinese might be interesting, might not only be interesting, but might be useful. So I did that. 1988, I graduated, and I thought, you know, 4 years of university study of China, I really should go to China for 6 months or a year to sort of put the cherry on the top and finish this stage of my life. Shortly after I arrived at Beijing University, I appeared quite by accident on TV. I had a chance to go for a big New Year's Eve gala festival and did a little skit, which turned out to be a big hit, much to everyone's surprise.
你好，这里是林公馆，请问您找谁？我说了，我找周润发。
What captured the audience's attention and fascination on that show was Mark's incredible command of Mandarin, a talent he showcased in comedy sketches.
有人找我吗？轻轻地把电话放下，说对方在哭笑不得。
I first became known for doing a form of Chinese comedy called xiangsheng, which is a traditional performing art of, in China, and it's highly revered as although it's a comedic art form, as sort of the art of language. It's the art of comedic language, and I was the first foreigner to break into this group of xiangsheng performers, and that was a real splash when we first did it.
So what advice does he have for Canadians who want to follow in his footsteps?
It's a very exciting environment. There are all kinds of opportunities here, but you have to be here, and you have to meet people, and you have to get your feet on the ground, and or your nose to the ground, and just sniff around. I mean, there are all kinds of things happening here, and it's a very exciting place for young people to be.
For many Canadian artists seeking opportunities in China, their career paths will take them through Hong Kong. That's where Vancouver film editor David Richardson found himself. While the language of film may be universal, David's first trip did result in some culture shock.
When you work for a company in Hong Kong, you're working for a family. That's kind of, it's like you eat together, often you play together and you work together, you know, 12 to 14 hours a day, 6, 7 days a week. So you get to know those people very, very intimately. And certainly my experience in Hong Kong is that most of the important business is carried on whilst eating. So, which is perfect for me because I love to do the same thing.
David has noticed that the film industry in Hong Kong has changed over the time he's been there.
The Hong Kong movie is considered as a Chinese movie, and subsequently it can now be shown subject to the censor board approval. But the censor board approval is a very, very stringent process, and they will often require additional scenes be shot that, for example, if you're dealing with a gangster movie, that make it obvious that the gangster way of life will not succeed, and you will, the bad guy always gets caught, and the police always know what the bad guy is up to.
Still, despite problems such as censorship, there is little doubt that the future of Hong Kong cinema is now securely tied to China.
The salvation for the Hong Kong film industry right now, as far as everyone believes, is when the gates of China, the China market, opens up. So Hong Kong films can be released legitimately on theater, like theatrically and video, to a huge market. And so Hong Kong so far has only been making films for a local market. They'll break open to a huge, massive, million-person market. And that's the thing that the industry is really hoping to happen.
中國市場開放咗之後咧，咁起碼係帶動咗好多喺香港暫時係少拍戲啊或者少做嘢嘅人，咁佢可以去國內度再，因為佢入到國內咧，佢又變成一個即係可以做咗ahead啊，咁即係起碼佢帶翻國內有好多係技術未到嘅嘢啊，咁所以其實無形中係帶動咗香港嘅電影。
And it's not just Hong Kong producers who have high hopes for the Chinese market. Canadian filmmakers are also counting on it.
The China market is definitely going to be a growing market for us. There's a lot of press in the industry these days, and particularly with China changing some of its regulations and censorship restrictions and import quotas. We definitely see it as a growing market.
Of course, China sees itself as more than just a market for foreign films. It wants a piece of the international production action as well, and is aggressively chasing co-production deals. China's film executives know that today's movie industry has gone global and is fiercely competitive. Producer DJ Carson knows that all too well.
Well, we're here on the set of Millennium Pictures' feature film, 16 Blocks, starring Bruce Willis and Mos Def, being shot here in Toronto.
Carson lives and likes to work in Toronto, but these days he often finds himself working on the other side of the world. As China opens to the world, foreign films are drawing Chinese audiences, and foreign audiences are flocking to Chinese films. The next wave seems inevitable. Partnership between China and Hollywood. Quentin Tarantino, for example, filmed Kill Bill in Beijing. And right here in Shanghai, Ralph Fiennes and Natasha Richardson shot The White Countess. The reasons are simple. You've got an exotic locale, more bang for the buck, and the potential audience of more than 1 billion people. Toronto producer DJ Carson knows the brave new world of international co-productions firsthand.
Well, in 2003, I had the opportunity to go to Thailand as part of a co-production. It was actually a Canadian, UK, Hong Kong co-production for a Steven Seagal film called Belly of the Beast. So I spent approximately 4 months there working on that production. In terms of the Hong Kong portion, the director of the film was a gentleman by the name of Tony Tung Chin, who's probably best known as an action director in the Hong Kong film circles. principally for the feature film Hero. He did all of the action choreography and action directing on that movie. So that was his first sort of North American style film. So him being a Hong Kong principal and also having a residency in Canada, actually, in Vancouver, he got involved in the movie, and then I got involved in the movie by virtue of being a Canadian. And we needed a Hong Kong partner, so we ended up going to Charles Wang of Salon Films, who provided funding in the way of camera grip and electric equipment.
The set for this movie became something of a mini United Nations, and Carson expects to be on more sets like that in the years ahead.
Well, I think it's no secret to say that really film and the film medium is very much a global business now. With it being very difficult for producers to raise capital to make money these days, they have to go wherever they can in order to, whether it's getting the money to make the movie or going to a place where the economics work well. I mean, it's no secret that when you go to Thailand, the exchange rate's better, so, and the wages are down, cost of living is better, so you can kind of get more for less. And I think Hong Kong, what they bring is they have a lot of great technology. Their people are very skilled in terms of the camera gear, the up-to-date camera gear. They have access to it.
So far, at least, filmmakers from Hong Kong and Canada have yet to come together to produce a great movie. But that may only be a matter of time.
I'm waiting for the first great, good Hong Kong-Canadian co-production. Because it's there, it's gonna happen. When you think about how much talent from Hong Kong actually live in Canada. We've got great screenwriters and directors in Canada. We've got great screenwriters and directors in Hong Kong. Lots of actors between. Something's gonna happen. Something has to happen.
Officials from both Hong Kong and Canada are certainly keen to see it happen.
Ladies and gentlemen, the future looks bright indeed. Many possibilities lie ahead. Big possibilities. As Carpenter's song says, we have only just begun.
Canada has a film co-production treaty with both Hong Kong and China, and we hope to see more co-productions done between China and Hong Kong and Canada in the future.
中加之间的合拍片协议呢，我们在1987年的时候，我们双方签订过。按照有效期的时间呢，已经到期了。现在呢，加方也提出来。 我们中国政府呢也表示同意，我们两国政府呢再重新起草一个新的合拍协议，以指导在新世纪的我们的一些合作电影方面的工作。
But of course, movies are not just business, they're also art. And maybe all that's needed is simply a good story.
I think the most important thing for a filmmaker to realize is it always have to be story come first. You know, you don't make a film because you want to do a co-production. It doesn't come this way. Although as much as we are all excited about, the possibility of doing co-productions, we want to do something with Asia, it doesn't mean that it will become successful simply throw in a few Asian faces in a story that doesn't make sense. So at the end of the day, no matter what, the business still should just come second. The main thing is you still have to come up with a good, solid story that makes sense. If the story doesn't make sense to be a co-production, don't force it, or else it'd just be a failure.
The late Bruce Lee, Hong Kong's version of Marlon Brando and James Dean rolled together, probably wouldn't recognize what Asian cinema has become. After all, he was the original pioneer, Hong Kong's first cultural export to Hollywood. Today, Asian stars fly back and forth across the Pacific with regularity. It's a cross-cultural collaboration that's bringing filmmakers and their audiences together.